episode of Two Guys in Their 20s, giving their perspective on the games that we love, the headlines of pop culture, and the meaning behind it all. I'm your host, Wayne Burns, along with my counterpart, Savon Morris. How's it going,
sad.
man?
Throw down sad. Green Bay's 0-1. Florida Gators lost. Like, bro, the weekend just was so trash.
We're joined by a special guest, Kevin Garcia. He's been on the podcast for past times and a really good friend of the show. But thanks so much for being back on, man.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, definitely. And we have a lot of topics to get into for this episode. Some NFL ones, album reviews in the second half. We're going to do a review of Above the Rim. But to start off with just, thoughts on Tampa Bay's win at Dallas and Dak's injury late in the game. The Bucs were able to win 19-3, and Brady and Mike Evans connected on a punctuating touchdown. Also, Leonard Fournette ran for 127 yards. And the big news was, near the end of the game where Dak Prescott needed surgery for a fracture near the thumb on his throwing hand and will miss multiple weeks. But to you, Kevin, what were your thoughts on Tampa Bay's win and, this really being a low-scoring game and what happened at the end with Dak?
Oh, well, minus the Dak part, living in Dallas and not being a Cowboys fan, it was wonderful. It was fantastic. I mean, it was great to see. I mean, it was kind of, I didn't have these crazy expectations for them. The defense still played pretty solid. I mean, Buccaneers only scored. They didn't, they weren't airing it out. They got ran on more than I would have thought a little bit, but offense looked bad. I mean, people are probably going to use that as a reason in regards to Dak for the rest of the season, but it's not like it was looking great.
Looking great anyways.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously that will be a reason. Dak's, a good quarterback and all, but it's not like it was giving hope already. I know it's just week one, but for the Cowboys, it's I don't know. It's hard for me not to be happy.
For you, Savon, looking at this game and some of the things that happened in it, especially with it kind of being a defensive battle early, what were your thoughts on it, and also just what this news of Dak means for Dallas going forward?
First and foremost, man, hats off to Tom Brady and Mike Evans and that offense. Fournette had 127 yards. Tom Brady 2 weeks hiatus didn't hinder him from winning his first game of the season. So, the Buccaneers look good. Their defense is, I think, their strongest part, only allowing 3 points, shutting them out, finding ways to get to the quarterback. Man, hats off to the Buccaneers and Dallas Cowboys, a.k.a. the Cry Girls, whatever they want to call them. They're in a rude awakening, and they saw that. You look at the offense. Ezekiel Elliott has not been himself since he came into the league. I think his first 2 years was his best years, obviously, but he's declined ever since then. Maybe people to the offense has been hurt. Tyron Smith is out for remainder of the season. They had to go get a veteran Jason Peters. Martin has in and out of being injured. But if he's such a good running back, it doesn't matter what type of offensive line that he has, which is they're still decent. I think they're top 15 offensive line in the league. So I think that's the Achilles heel. Dak Prescott playing good or not, I think they always relied on the running game, even when they had Derek McFadden, even they had I forgot the guy. He was not Tony Pollard. Forgot the other running back they had, and he fizzled out when he went to another team with the Titans. But they always relied heavy on the run game, and that's been non-existent for the past 2 to 3 years. And Ezekiel Elliott is the starter running back, and you can't attest that to the offensive line. But if the running game works, Dallas Cowboys will be better. But since they're not, they're 0-1. 19, they're 0-1, brother.
Yeah. And for you. For you, Kevin, when you look at the NFC in terms of just the expectations you had coming into this year, was it one of those things where you kind of expected, we usually see Tampa Bay kind of being near the top, even with some of the off-season concerns they were having before the season started?
Yeah, I think if the NFC was stronger, I think some of those, we'll see if their weaknesses or not would be shown a little bit more. But I think the thing that helps Tampa Bay is I feel like they have good enough players, and obviously Tom Brady and they'll have, since they're not playing just the craziest teams every week, they'll develop into that. They'll have space to do that. Whenever most teams, often you don't get space to do that, and so that could set them up really nicely. Yeah, because I thought they were still going to be good, even if they're in a tough division, they're still good enough they were going to be good. Mm-hmm. But not having to face something crazy all the time. It really does give you some. I don't want to say practice, because in the NFL, any week, anyone can lose to anyone.
Exactly.
But it does allow you to have more of a margin of error a little bit, and maybe to see what's working a little bit better for them.
Yeah, definitely. And now getting into Kansas City's kind of clinical performance against Arizona, the Chiefs were able to win on the road 44-21 as Mahomes threw for 5 touchdowns and had 360 yards. And in terms of just how convincing of a win this was for the Chiefs, because they're coming off the news off the offseason of not having Tyreek Hill anymore, and just questions of, can this offense still be as potent? They were just as potent scoring on the first 3 drives. To you, Kevin, like, what were your thoughts on this game, and just like how they were able to kind of tune out the noise early of, are they going to be the same Chiefs?
Yeah, I mean, I figured they were still going to be very good. I didn't think it was going to be
a big drop
something
off.
too crazy. Yeah, and look, I actually, I mean, I think the Chiefs, think they're very, very good. I also think this is a weird game. Like, the Cardinals played really bad. Like, it looked really, like, so much of what they were doing just did not look very good. Again, credit to the Chiefs. I mean, you force a team to look bad when you play really well.
Yeah.
And Pat Mahomes, like, especially, he's a competitor. Like, you hear all that stuff. Oh, I needed this person, or without Tyreek Hill, this will look this way. Of course, you're going to want to come out prepared. I mean, it might give you that extra little bit just to at least start the year a little sharper than maybe you would have otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. To you, Savon, what were your thoughts on this clinical performance from Kansas City, and also just the struggles you saw we were able to see from Arizona at home?
Just wild. First and foremost, man, you look at what the Kansas City Chiefs look like in the preseason. You would have never thought they would have came out
big difference,
and smacked, a battered. I will say they're a battered Cardinals team. Secondary is hurt. Tyrann Mathieu had to exit because they didn't want to pay him. JJ Watt is injured. That's their biggest pass rusher. Then you don't have DeAndre Hopkins, which I want to get ahead of myself. But when you have an offense and a defense that rely on most of the top guys, JJ Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, and the secondary doesn't look the same, it's gonna relate to the field. Like, we're missing our best players. Their whole secondary is banged up, but that's no excuse. Next man up, correct? So when just looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, man, I forgot they had Travis Kelce. Not obviously forgot, but looking at Tyreek Hill, shadow Travis Kelce at moments, because it's Tyreek Hill. The guy could take the top off. He could play in a slot. You could do, I call it mixed martial arts. You could do so much stuff in the backfield. But looking at what they accomplished with this team, man, crazy. Because I didn't think they had enough, especially in the wide receiver core. Did they do enough to replace Tyreek Hill? They replaced him with a bunch of, possession receivers, nothing over the big guy over the top. But man, running game looked good. Patrick Mahomes, 10-year guy, got 10-year meal. He looked good. So, I mean, he was damn near perfect.
Yeah. I mean, and another thing I was thinking about, Kevin, was how much is the hype around the Bills also a motivation for the Chiefs? Because I think that's another thing the Chiefs heard all off season was like, hey, like, the Bills are going to be the top team. Josh Allen, which I think he is going to have an incredible season. How much of that also do you think them knowing that the Bills are the team that everybody is kind of picking as the prohibitive AFC favorite is another part of their motivation, possibly?
Yeah, I'm sure it would have to be. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, again, of course, everyone still thought. No one said the Chiefs are going to be, 2 and what is it now, 16? I keep forgetting with the new, with the extra game.
Yeah.
But no one was saying they were going to, like, be terrible. But, like, it definitely has been given over towards the Bills. I mean, and for right
good
reasons. Players, really well. They smacked the Rams. Like, nothing wrong with that. But I mean, ultimately, obviously, if you're going to be good, you're going to be good, regardless of what someone says. But I do think there maybe can be something said for how you start, maybe, like how you kind of get it going, and some of the sharpness, and just starting off right away and, like, showing that. And then maybe we can put it on cruise control later. But look, you'll remember how we smacked somebody, and then we kind of just, yeah, exactly.
But now getting into the Packers-Vikings game, and just kind of like thoughts on what Minnesota was able to do at home. Minnesota won this game 23-7. Justin Jefferson had 184 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And, Kirk Cousins had 277 yards without a turnover. And to you, Kevin, looking at this outcome, what were your takeaways also? The Packers, they've had season opening losses before, even last year against New Orleans, and started the season off flat, but were still able to have a really good regular season. What did you think about this game, and just kind of like, are the real concerns of what Green Bay has so far?
I mean, really, it's the same exact type of team that's always beaten Green Bay. Like in the sense of even when it comes to the playoffs or something, you have a stout defense, an okay quarterback, because it's rarely ever a great quarterback that beats Aaron Rodgers. It's like someone that's okay. And then someone else who tears it up or something, some like running back or receiver or something. I hate seeing it against the Vikings, of course. So in one sense, it's very disappointing to see. I mean, Vikings have, they have some good, they have a good team, obviously, but like, it's just the same type of team. And so the only thing I'm hoping, and I don't have they lost the last 3 years, week one, and they'll be okay. Only what I'm hoping is maybe it can cause a readjustment to how they're playing to a degree, to where they have a really good defense. They have a couple of good running backs. They should have a really good defense.
But to close it out, Savon, in terms of this matchup, what did you kind of think about how things played out, and also what Minnesota was able to do against Green Bay?
You know what? We don't have a savior anymore, or a security blanket, as Aaron Rodgers was put it. We missed Devontae Adams so much yesterday, and it showed these rookie wide receivers. Alan Lazard is out for a short period of time. Tanyan didn't look like himself. Sammy Watkins had a couple good plays. Randall Cobb had a couple good plays, but Christian Watson dropping a bomb. Oh, it was going to be a good answer. If we would have scored, the whole atmosphere, the freaking everything would have changed with that touchdown. And we don't have the guys that are in sync with the quarterback, staying outside instead of releasing inside or extending plays. That's what Green Bay Packers offense, it lives on. The breathe, live, extended plays, getting out of danger, and Aaron Rodgers scrambling and finding somebody. We didn't see that the first game. Last year, I wasn't as alert, or it wasn't a red flag. Okay, we lost to the New Orleans Saints. Okay, cool. We're going to bounce back. Knew that. This year, I do not know if our rookie wide receivers can cut the mustard. Sammy Watkins and Randall Cobb are going to step up, and I don't think they're the type of wide receiver that can do that. On top of our play calling on defense, I do not know what Joe Barry was calling. He last year 13-4. Defense looked decent in certain spots. The secondary is always our Achilles heel, but when it comes to his play calling to that game, Jair is supposed to be on Justin Jefferson no matter what. No matter what. I don't care about you trying to run zone or make us a heavy zone running defense. Jair should have been on him. That was a big takeaway. Justin Jefferson, man, I'm getting mad just thinking about it. He exploited the soft spot of the zone. Zone do not work. We didn't. And then our offensive line, I don't know if Bakhtiari is ever going to play. You know what? I'm off of it. I'm a ramble because I've been thinking about. I'm a ramble, so I'm gonna just we're not ready. Just gonna put it out. We're not ready. We're not ready.
And now kind of getting into the Chargers Raiders game. In their opener, LA was able to win by 5 with Justin Herbert throwing 3 touchdown passes and 279 yards. They also were able to avenge last season's finale, which Las Vegas, won on a field goal in the final seconds of overtime. But to you, Kevin, like, what stood out to you in the Chargers opening home win, and just, also how Justin Herbert played?
Yeah, I mean, I think very highly of the Chargers. Like, I don't know if I was trying to be contrarian at all. Maybe not. But like, I picked the Chargers to make it to the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
Like, I have the Chargers making. Yeah, I think they have excellent receivers. Obviously, Justin Herbert, I think, is really good. Running backs are good. Bro, you got Khalil Mack out there on defense. You got Derwin James. Yeah. You got their corners. You got oh my gosh, Bosa. Like, that is. I'm like, look, whoa. I'm just saying, it's good odds, maybe. Maybe it's not good likelihood, but that's a good team. And I will be honest, I've been playing Madden a little bit, and the Chargers are pretty good on there. So then I was like, you know what? If I'm picking another team,
that'll affect your decision. That'll influence the decision a little.
Yeah. And in this game, they looked solid. Like it looked like Herbert played solid. They played good, took care of what you need to do. I was hoping they were going to have like a big blowout game, but I mean, they kept him kind of at arm's length, even though the Raiders' second half were kind of like, kind of outplayed him for most of the game in the second half, but like they still kept it. Yeah, they still kept it there, got the win. It's a divisional game. I think it's a good win. A divisional rival type game when you get a win in the NFL against a division person, I think it's still a good win.
A win. Yeah, absolutely. To you, Savon, like what are your thoughts on this win for LA, them starting off the season, and also the Super Bowl hot take that Kevin just gave? What do you kind of think about the likelihood of that team kind of being the dark horse that could possibly go all the way?
I don't. Yeah, no, they're not definitely. I don't think they have enough to get over that hump. They played a great game, but the Raiders missed a couple opportunities that could have changed that game itself. Yes, Khalil had 3 sacks. Bosa had one half and a sack. I guess a total like 9 or 10 sacks for the whole team. And Justin Herbert continues to grow and be the player that the Chargers was looking for in the draft when they drafted him. I think he played a great game, but the running game is going to be Achilles heel. I don't think Justin Herbert has enough if it got to that point to score or lead his team down to score in a big playoff game or in the Super Bowl. The running game has to be a pivotal part of that. That opens up the defense in a whole nother round. Play action, one-on-ones on the outside. It opens a lot of, you stack the box. Now you get one-on-one on the outside. You can put your top guy in the slot receiver, go take the top off. The running game helps a lot. I didn't see that. Yeah, he threw for 3 touchdowns, but Raiders missed a couple opportunities that should have kept them in the game. Not taking anything from them. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team, but I do think they're a good team. But Super Bowl winning team yet? Nah, not yet.
Yeah.
I was just say, just bring me back when it's Chargers, Packers in the Super Bowl. I know my prediction on the Packers part doesn't look great there now either, but watch. We're going to adjust.
He told y'all in September.
They're going to make us play ugly football, and we're finally going to beat these ugly games in the playoffs. So that's all I'm hoping for.
Chargers and Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl.
Yes, that's the prediction.
That's not a bad prediction.
It's not bad.
It's not bad at all. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Likely?
Just don't think it's likely.
I'm okay with that.
And another team in that division, Denver, who's gonna play later tonight against Seattle. Yeah. To you, Kevin, like looking at the new fit with Russell Wilson, also what that team is gonna try to do differently this year with an elite quarterback. What are your thoughts on that, and just also how they can compete in a really tough AFC West?
Yeah, I think, when you get a good quarterback, you're going to be able to compete to a degree. I don't know if they have enough kind of everywhere to like be better and have, as many good players simply as like the other teams in that division. Because obviously that division is incredibly tough. I think they're going to hover around 500, but you'll see them beating other teams. You're like, man, they beat the 2 seed in the NFC and the 3 seed, or you know what I mean? Like they're going to have games where they win. Like, like some years in the, like before, there'd be like the SEC West would have a team that's like 8-6, and then the bowl game, they wipe some 10-2 team out or something, like, I think they're going to be good. I just don't know if they have enough everywhere to really like consistently week to week. They could beat each of those teams any given week, but to consistently carry it through, I don't think they'll have enough there.
To you, Savon, like what are your kind of like initial thoughts on what Denver could do in the AFC West in terms of just competing?
I think they have a shot. They were what we talked about last week. They were missing a franchise quarterback. They didn't have a franchise quarterback since Peyton Manning retired. So to be able to get a quarterback with Russell Wilson who can do a lot of things, extend the play, do the RPOs. Yeah. He's literally the best quarterback who drops dimes. He sends it from above, and it just in the breadbasket.
Down
so like I think that was good. Their defense is decently good. Bradley Chubb is still coming to his own. I think the secondary has grown in some aspects, but they were missing a franchise quarterback, and they got that. Russell Wilson still has. He's not talked about because he's so consistent, but he still has a good 4 to 6 years in his prime. So I think they have enough. I think he'll bring that. They might not start well, but it'll be similar to, I think, the Patriots.
They might be a really good second half team.
Yes.
They might be a really good second half team.
Because the Patriots last year, Patriots didn't start off good, and then they were sneaky getting into the mix, and I think that will be the same with the Denver Broncos.
Definitely. And now getting into our first album review with Ari Lennox's Age, Sex, and Location, and just kind of thoughts on some of the favorite tracks in this. In her new sophomore album, which just included high-level production, as you had songs like Waste My Time that raised the tempo, and this project is really just like an honest reflection of certain relationships and just doesn't shy away from turmoil either. To you, Kevin, like, what were your thoughts on this album and what she was able to put together in it?
Man, I love this album. Like, I don't know if it's because I just quit a job that was terrible and I've been listening to it in a good mood playing it since then. But like, I've been in the car playing it. I played it on the AirPods. I played it in the kitchen when I was cooking and cleaning. Like, because I like Ari Lennox and I've really liked some of her songs. And I didn't necessarily love her last album. I thought it was cool, but like I didn't like, it was good. It was fine, and she had some great songs, and I love her voice. But like, and I don't know, maybe I got like, I don't know how it'll feel in a month, but like right now, I have really enjoyed. Like, it starts off strong and then just keeps going. Yeah. Like, I really enjoyed it. For me, like I really liked it.
To you, Savon, what were your initial thoughts on this album, and just kind of like, whoa, thumbs down.
No.
Kevin, he's the biggest Ari Lennox fan I know. No. Okay, Seven.
Bro.
Okay, take it away.
Take it away. It did not hit for me. It did not hit for me.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, me too, bro. I wanted to like this because it's Ari, bro. I love Ari. I've been on Ari since like 2014, bro. But this one was not it for me. It was just like Plenty of Fish. I mean, the concept was dope, but the production behind it, I didn't really like it. And you smoothed into what it was, Hoodie, and then Waste My Time. And I was like, Ari, what are we at? Where we at? What are we doing? Like, the vibes are off. It did like my ears was not in love with it. Not even a Summer Walker song. I'm a big
not even that one. But getting into like the closing thoughts of this album, Kevin, like were there any like main tracks that you kind of go back to and kind of like the repeat ones for you?
Probably my favorite might be the one with Lucky Day, the Boy Bye song. Like, I like that song a lot. I did like, I guess in the first intro, couple of tracks, I've obviously only been able to give it a few listens. I haven't listened to it 20 times, but like for me, I'm like good playing it. But I can see how like it is a little bit different than even her sounding stuff. So if someone's following her for a long time, I absolutely can see like this being something that's like, well, I don't know if it's really. I have it the same way with either R&B or other rappers I like, that I'm like, they do something different and other people like it, and I'm like, nah.
Didn't hit for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I said, I like Ari in the sense of like her voice is incredible, obviously. And I've liked a few of her songs a lot, and I think it's good. Like, nothing on her last album was like, nothing was bad. I've never heard anything bad, but I just didn't really enjoy it that much. This one, I don't know. For me, I'm really liking it right now. Like I said, who knows? Maybe in a week I'll be like, oh man, some of that, you play it too much and it gets a little old. I don't know. But to me right now, I love it. I've been playing it nonstop.
Yeah. And now get into our next review with Domo Genesis intros, outros, and interludes. In this album, there's concision and precise identity lyrically stands out. As the production from Evidence is a product of contemporary alternative hip hop. You got soul vocal loops and also antique drums plus other strong instrumentation. To you, Kevin, like, what were your thoughts on how almost every beat emitted its own exclusive aura, and just there was kind of like really a diverse palette of experimental flavors in this?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Overall, like, it's not necessarily like an album I loved. It was good, and there's a couple of songs that do stand out more to me than the rest of it, and I definitely can see like this is kind of more so. I do see if someone maybe, I don't know, it was cool and it was good, but it didn't really like. Oh, I haven't been like replaying it over and over.
Replay value.
Yeah. It's good, and again, kind of similar how I thought of when I mentioned the other album by Art. Like, there wasn't like something that I was like, oh, that's just trash. But I do catch myself on playing. I might, I actually want to go listen to this one instead, or there's something I'm just not fully into. Yeah,
absolutely. To you, Savon, what were your initial thoughts on this album and some of the main takeaways on it?
I'm a bit jealous, Wellington, because you set his question up so beautifully. You said like 3 big words that it was in a Webster dictionary. What are your thoughts, Savon? That's it. But no, I thought this was like, I'm a big hip hop fan, but I thought this was definitely authentically hip hop. First and foremost, he checked the boxes of production, his voice, his cadence, the lyrics, the bars. I'm with Kevin though. It's not something I'll listen to continuously, but I do think I appreciate the project in its entirety. I thought it was a beautiful project, but it's with hip hop, it's like with real authentic hip hop, you gotta listen to it in increments because it's not catchy most times. It's not going to like entice you to want to listen to it over and over. So you appreciate hip hop albums more, but then it's not, in the realm of catchy or I remember what he said or remember the hook or something. So I mean that's the downfall of real authentic hip hop. No, not all the time. There's some tracks that they're very catchy within in the hip hop self. So, but not this.
Yeah, that's what I always joke. I always joke with people that I'm kind of like a fake backpack rapper fan in the sense of like all of my friends who only like all the turn up music think that I only listen to that stuff. But then whenever I'm with my friends who only listen to like independent rap and things like that, they're like, "Oh, you like Drake songs too?" and stuff like that. Like, "Oh, you just listen to da da da." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just kind of in the I'm like not fully
you're
in the middle.
a hybrid. You're a hybrid. Yes, you're a hybrid.
Yeah.
We're the same way.
Yeah, and so it definitely, like I said, it's good, and I can appreciate some more. And it might be something I kind of like later on if I'll be like, hey, I might just go run that back again later and kind of keep checking it out. Because like I said, there's a few songs I do really like though.
Definitely. And also like looking back to you, Kevin, in terms of this year, what you've liked so far in terms of albums that you kind of run back to more. Have there been any like main standouts for you? Obviously, like we got to hear your thoughts on Mr. Morale because like you're one of the biggest Kendrick fans I know. But like, have there been like any standout rap albums or just any albums so far for you this year?
Yeah, I love I'm a huge Vince Staples fan. I've liked his album and I've been playing it a lot. So like,
about that a lot.
I'm Vince Staples kind of hits almost the perfect sweet spot for me. Like he picks good beats and music now. Before sometimes he'd be a little experimenty, and I just kind of was like, the last 3 albums in a row, I've been just like I love them all. And then like this year, I've really really enjoyed. Obviously, the Kendrick album. I have a kind of special attachment now to a lot of that album that I know is probably will kind of always maybe make me overrate part of it. Like I recognize I'm not like, oh, it's better than Good Kid, Mad City or nothing, but like, just the message of it, like paralleling so much in my life. I was like, man, that's really good. Now, let me be clear, not the affair part, none of that kind of scandal stuff.
None of that video, by the way. Amazing.
Oh, that was a
incredible
video.
Well,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think a lot of people who are around my age or maybe even a little older, closer to Kendrick's age, or even a little bit, you've kind of like, even as you grow older, there's a way in which kind of similar to J. Cole, like there's times it's so unique because a lot of people are realizing some of those things. Like I can choose me, like literally he's saying, I feel this impulse to always want to help, but I choose me and I'm sorry,
I literally heard another podcaster say, that is an album specifically for people in their 30s. Like he said, like I don't know how somebody in their 20s could relate to this album as much as somebody who's older in life, they've gone through things, and that's really what he was touching down the album.
It would. Like it would definitely be hard to. And I mean, there was a kid I knew where I worked at. There was a kid in a program, and he's actually a rapper. I didn't know at the time, but he was going to the Kendrick concert. He loved it and stuff. He thought of it as being good. Technically, he said he doesn't know, obviously, he doesn't experience it the same way yet, but like it's kind of cool that later on, like as something he liked when he was younger, he might be able to hear that and hear some of that message. But like I think especially with that album, man, I think it broke up for Kendrick some of the simple answers he had about things. He was like, hey, here's a problem, here's an answer. And then now as you get older, you see, well, it gets really muddied and complex. And there's a whole bunch of factors that go into it. And so man, that one. West Side Boogie. I'm a real big fan of West Side Boogie, and I've liked his album a lot.
He's growing on me.
Yeah, I loved his last album. I really like it. And it's funny because his album sounds like, Dr. Morale and the Little Steppers or something. Like it's like the same kind of topics and stuff. Like, But I'm trying to remember, like off the top, I'm trying to remember. I know there's other albums, but I kind of. My mind's blanking right now. I like the Pusha T album. Although I haven't listened to it.
Savon hated that.
See, I think, but here's the thing. I do think I thought I liked it a lot more at first. And now I'm kind of like, okay, it was cool. Like there was because I don't catch myself, going
I would
into it
still
as
put
much as I thought
Daytona
I
over
would.
it. I would still put Daytona over it
Yeah.
because I think Daytona was just a perfect body of work.
Yeah, I mean, I would now. At the time, I was over here like, oh man, I think it might be better than
Wow.
Daytona.
Perfect. Wow.
I mean, there's only 2 songs, so
But getting into our next review with K-Tronada and Anderson .Paak's Twin Flame, in this new track, both artists collaborate on a funky, stimulating beat with, sly vocals from Anderson .Paak and extremely just catchy lyrics. To you, Kevin, like what did you think about this track and just how these two meshed on this song?
Oh, I really, really enjoyed it. Like I liked it. I joked when the song first came out before. I was like, I already like this better than all the whole him and Bruno album. But I don't like Bruno, so like I'm just throwing that out there. He's not my kind of. I love Anderson though. I love Anderson,
Anderson's
and so
phenomenal.
and I love K-Tronada. So like this, I was almost gonna when there's collabs, I set my expectations low at first because I get too excited. I'm like, oh, but they're almost never like both hyping up. It's usually, and this one wasn't like the greatest song, but it was really good. I enjoyed it. Like it was what I would have hoped from a song from them. I really liked it.
Definitely. To you, Savon, like what were your initial thoughts on this track and just kind of like how these two flow together?
I didn't like the production. I think when Anderson collabs with Katana or whoever that has that type of vibes, I like it more up tempo, more lively, more like happy or whatever. But this one, I mean, I like how he was initially came on the track, but I don't like the production interchange it of going like it was just too much. Just too much going on through the production. I think it was if it was more up tempo, so you can play with it like that, and you know what I mean. So I don't know. I didn't think it was a bad track because I'm a huge Anderson .Paak fan too. But I just thought it should have been more like a bumpy, not bumpy, but more like a cheery type WishCon when you collab with a producer like that because he has a specific style and that he catered to you. So when you add another artist to it, you have to somehow combine both of your styles together. I think they missed on this one.
Got it. Well, now we're going to get into our movie review, Above the Rim. And to start with the overview, Above the Rim is a 1994 sports drama film co-written and directed by Jeff Pollack in his directorial debut. The screenplay was written by Barry Michael Cooper, adapted from a story by Benny Medina, had a budget of $6.5 million and brought in $62.2 million in the box office. Also had a 52% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And the film tells the story about a promising New York City high school basketball star, now employed as a security guard at the high school. He was a promising star years ago. To you, Kevin, to start it off, like looking back at this film and it following two stories with obviously a memorable Tupac performance. What were some of your main thoughts on it?
Oh man, this is like a movie I've seen like a million times, and so I actually hadn't watched it in probably a couple years. I don't know. I hadn't thought like I just hadn't watched it a little bit recently, but like yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I remember lines from it. I just watched it again recently, of course, to catch up and refresh. But like, I mean, it's an iconic movie. I mean, everything from Tupac's headband, even though it switches up every other second in the last scene.
For
real. To the jerseys, the shootout logo, to everything in it, to everybody like having so many actors in it. It's like, I've loved the movie forever. It's iconic.
Definitely. To you, Savon, like what were your initial thoughts on this film? Obviously, a very iconic movie, and just kind of like how it's even aged years from now.
I remember watching this as a kid. I know it came out in 94. I was born in 93, but watching it when I got a little older and thinking like, bro, I didn't know Tupac was a rapper. I just thought he was an actor. Because we didn't listen to like Tupac. We grew up on like old school Slick Rick, Dougie Fresh, them like, stuff like, because my dad was big in it. My dad wasn't a Tupac fan. So I didn't know he was a rapper. I just thought he was like a good actor because I've seen some other movies like Juice. He played phenomenal in that. Like, I'm like, yo, this actor is dope. Like, his name is Tupac? That's a weird name, but he's a good actor. But no, like, it was just, it was realistic first and foremost, especially his brother being the top guy, and then, going through trauma, PTSD of his friend getting killed. And just like that brother, you love your brother, but you hate your brother. And just like, basketball sports is like the focal point in our community. So it's just like, it was just realistic. So it didn't really seem like a movie. It just seemed like an everyday
thing.
I see this every day. With us, it's just football. In Pensacola stuff, it's just football.
Yeah.
So
well, you know why too? What I took note, I paid attention to some things more. The basketball is actually good in the movie. Like,
oh no,
that sounds crazy, but it's just natural and good the whole time.
Yes. Yeah. Except one play where the dude caught the ball and he ducked it, but he was like down. It was like they cut it up wrong.
Yeah.
They didn't have enough footage, but they cut it up wrong. And then it's just like, yo, come on. Like, what is he doing? Yeah. Oh, he's Superman now. He just get that. Okay. But yeah, they definitely was playing good basketball. All of them played basketball back in the day. Even Martin, forgot his name. He was one of the guys on Tupac's team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he played basketball in real life. Leon Thompson played basketball in real life. All these guys play ball in real life. So that's why I like more, because you know, some of they get these actors like, bro. Where did y'all come from?
Sports movies it's bad.
Yes, bro. Y'all can't even act. How did y'all even get that?
Savon, do you want to address the highly incorrect Rotten Tomatoes percentage on this? We've had some bad ones. This one was horrible. This one was really bad. 52%.
52%. Bro, this at least should be like a 70, 72. Yeah. It checked boxes. Even though they cut the film wrong, it checked boxes. Mm-hmm. It has suspense. It has sports. It has, maybe it is a 52%. I don't know what else I can say.
Soundtrack?
Soundtrack was fire.
Soundtrack
is fire. But I just, at least it's got to be like a 68 or between 68 and 73%. 52, that's a little low. Yeah. That's a little low.
I wonder what Roger Ebert gave it, because I know Roger Ebert, he gives some wild ratings with movies like this. But to you, Kevin, like also in terms of just like this movie reflecting like in every like Savon was saying, it was reality for a lot of people. It didn't even feel like a movie. It was just like a regular day occurrence. Like, do you feel as though like how it was reflecting the reality of many people's lives was another reason why it was just so effective back then?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think what they did really good is like there's so many other good characters too that are like very humanized, because of them, whether it's Bernie Mac playing Flip or Marlon Wayans coming in playing Bugaloo, like, which was probably my favorite character in the whole movie. Like, if them two weren't there for the comedic relief, it would be a very, very, very drab and dark movie. I mean, it is anyways, but I think it did a lot. I mean, it just showed a lot of things that do go on. I mean, they can go on around basketball. Mm-hmm. They didn't even have to explain what the shootout was. They were just like, it's the shootout. You know what the shootout is. It's just it's the shootout. Because everyone has a tournament around. Everyone has some kind of game. And they always know there's that dude over there who's kind of like buying the kids sneakers. But then he's also like, he bought someone else's parent a car. And like, there's just some weird stuff maybe going on and to various degrees. I mean, I think it didn't do it too like super crazy exaggerated. I mean, they had some stuff that was a little lot, but I mean, it's a movie too. So, but I think because of the natural way that a lot of the basketball looked, the ways people just interacted, and people knowing somebody who just came out, come out of prison. Yeah. Like, I have uncles and friends and people who I've known who've come out, and just you get excited to see them. Just like little small things too that would happen. I think it showed that really well.
Definitely. And I'll get into our first topic. From 1 to 4 stars, what would you give it? To you, Kevin, like, what would be your particular rating for this and some of your reasons?
Oh man, this one's very hard because there's like a big from 2 to. Like, I'm not gonna give it a 4. Like, but 2 almost feels small, because if I do give it a 2, like because I love the movie, but I know it's also, if I had never watched it, it would still be kind of predictable. You kind of know some things that are gonna go on, and there's nothing wrong with that to me. 2.7. I'm gonna cheat and just give it like, I don't want to give it a 2 because it seems like it's the Rotten Tomato score, but a 3 is also very good movies in my opinion, and it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I put it right around there. Yeah, and it's one of those. But I've watched it more than a lot of 4-star movies, so yeah.
Definitely. To you, Savon, what would be your particular rating for it?
I'm gonna give it and I've never done this before. I don't want to give it a 3. I'll say like a 2.85. I think it had, I think it had its moments where it was like really good, but I think it was so low budget that I think it would have been shot better. I think the
And you
dialogue
mentioned
could
that
have
a
been
lot. How a movie is
better.
shot. How a movie is shot plays into
Yeah,
the
I
rating
think
as
it could have
well.
been shot better. Obviously, if you cut and film like that and you think people not gonna notice, that's how
Yeah, like imagine we're doing the pod and every other time my hat goes this way and
Yeah,
I come back.
yes. They call it a jump
Wow, there
cut.
was
Like that
Yeah,
was a terrible jump cut. They could have did something else, But
yeah.
but no, I thought it could have been shot better. I think that the dialogue could have been better.
Mm.
But I mean, when you're working on the type of budget like that, you don't have many resources. So I would say 2.5. I'll give it a 2.85. 2.85. I think that's
Yeah,
fair.
I was thinking 2.5 as well because I mean this it wasn't your typical sports movie. Really a good story about talent being corrupted by the street game, and just the cast was really picked together extremely well, especially for the time of its release. Getting into favorite character now, I really like Shep because he had the story of
Mhm.
being that star and then kind of having to give that advice later on in terms of not working out for him and kind of looking out for a younger star that was coming up in the ranks. Like, to you, Kevin, who is your kind of particular favorite character?
Without picking any of the main ones, kind of like I said, I'm gonna have that pair
Yeah,
of Flip and Bug. I love Bernie Mac, and so like just kind of seeing him and in a serious mode too, he's kind of given like, hey, if it goes this route, this is kind of what it looks like later on. Like
yeah,
he's kind of an example of a dude who played basketball, and then he's kind of now just out here on the street sleeping and stuff like that, and he's friends with this other guy, and things went wrong, and look, here's what it could be like later
mm,
on or whatever. And then yeah, with Marlon Wayans' character, like he is like the funny parts of it, they make it so much funnier and lighter. While where I think other people had better performances, of course.
yeah.
I just like it's like if I liked someone who was an incredible sixth man, and I just this is my favorite player. I've always
Mm,
liked seeing their scenes in the movie. Yeah.
absolutely. To you, Savon, like looking back at this movie, like who was your overall favorite character?
I have to say Chef, man. I mean Shep. I thought his character was once again so realistic. There's a lot of guys who don't make it out in their environment for multiple reasons.
Mm,
Then you go back and then you have to go back into the lifestyle, or you have to do something you don't want to do, or you're just at the bottom, and then your family. Like, man, Birdie is just Birdie was a butthole, man. But I like his character because he had the opportunity to give back knowledge and give the game back to Kyle, and then Coach Rollins. I'm like, you got a lot to give back. You want to give back, start with Kyle. You can't
yeah.
do anything about Nutso or whatever. But I do think his character was obviously the pivotal part of the movie
Mm.
because he could have chose not to do any of that stuff. He could have just felt sorry for himself and kept doing what he wanted to do. But I think his character really kind of rounded the movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And now kind of getting into most memorable scenes, I had one-on-one with Kyle and Shep. Also, you ain't the man no more with Birdie and Shep's conversation at the
Mm-hmm.
graveside. Also, Kyle snaps after being taken out of the game, and there was just that frustration of what was kind of going on in his personal life, getting to the court. Birdie and Kyle's conversation at halftime. Also, Birdie killing Flip, and then finally Shep getting shot and Birdie's death. To you, Kevin, like what were like the main scenes in this film that you kind of thought were like, or maybe a couple that you thought were the main
Mhm.
standouts?
Well, the biggest thing is it's like a pairing because how they did it was
Mm,
like the first time when they're playing one on one with
Mm-hmm.
Flip and how that's all going and how he's mocking him, they're doing all these things, and then when it goes back into the scene where he's going, him and Shep are playing one on one, and like how
yeah,
he sets it, and just taking it from him, and just like kind of like one was in the light, all this is going on, it's lighthearted, and then later on they're doing it, it's in the dark, and he even I think it's small, but like he did. Well, one thing I thought was like such a small little detail that I thought was cool was like when Kyle, like when he loses, because remember in the first one, even Flip when he lost, he was like, "No, I'm not gonna get kicked right now. Like I'm out of here,"
yeah,
and doing that. But even Kyle, when he lost, he was like, "Okay, well, I lost," and it's almost kind of like I'm accepting the responsibility of what I did, and I
mm,
think it kind of shows like he's a type of person that's gonna pivot to make choices that are good and that'll
mm,
be helpful and all that. Like I think it's like such a small little, really good detail. I think that
yeah,
they put that in there. They didn't have to show him do that. They could have just showed him being a basketball player, being cocky, and no, I ain't gonna do that, da da da, da old man or something. But I think just him doing that and then walking away and seeing that, I think that was really such a good contrast in how they showed those two scenes.
absolutely. To you, Savon, like what were the memorable scenes to you in this movie overall?
Two, when Chef finally came and he started playing in the tournament for them to win. That was a good part. And then I won't say one of the quotes that I'm going to say later, but I think when Birdie got killed was a good scene. To get killed by him though, like that was just like nobody else did nothing either. He just shot him. Nobody did anything.
Right? It had terrible fake blood. I'm not gonna lie. It just looked like thinned out ketchup on him.
The music didn't stop. You know, you at a party, people, you didn't go kill nobody and just like, just go back to normal. No, bro. But yeah, I thought that was a weak but good scene at the same time because Birdie wanted that lifestyle and that's the end result. Or he going to jail, but he got that one.
And now getting into most memorable quotes I had, all you got to do is score Kyle from Shep. Also, why are you doing this, man? It's just a game from Kyle. You might be on the other team, but you're playing for me. Remember that from Birdie. You think I came back here to work for you from Shep. And then also, you don't owe me nothing. You owe yourself and the ones who care to get you here. Believe me, I know from Shep. To you, Kevin, like, were there any like main standout quotes or ones that you kind of, kind of reflected on more so in this film, looking back at it?
Yeah, I think one of the most like significant ones, I don't know if you remember or not, but Bugaloo and Kyle are walking down the street, and then he proceeds to call him a Gentile, and then says something about an anteater.
Oh
yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, and I recently just watched this. I recently just watched.
Remember that one.
But for you, Savon, looking at memorable quotes, like, were there any ones looking back that you kind of felt as though were the top ones in this?
You said obviously you said all the good ones, always, but
you're welcome.
Hey, but it was one that stood out between the conversation between Coach Rollins and Shep. I'll just go to like the end. You can't do anything about your mom or nutso, but you can about Cal. It's all there for him, Shep, and he's blowing it. And then Shep said, "Well, he won't be the first." Like that really summed up where he was, this character build where he was then, and how he changed at the end of the movie. And I think he finally saw the opportunity to instill into the younger guys just because it didn't pan out for me then. But I thought that was a dope situation because you can see the difference between that quote then and how the movie ended. So a lot of progress with character development.
Definitely. And kind of getting into like, what did you like the most about this storyline, Kevin? Like, to you, what particular element of this storyline, like, did you think like they kind of like really hit home and it worked the most for them?
Oh man, I think it's crazy, but it really is way ahead of his time in talking about like trauma. like he had an awful thing go on, and it affected his ability to play basketball, which even when I'm growing, I didn't grow up, I wasn't a teenager in 1994 or whatever, but like even growing up in 2000s a little bit more, I didn't like, you wouldn't think that. Like you don't have that in your head that like someone could be playing a sport, a kid, and they got this crazy stuff that's affecting them and bothering them. It just wasn't even on our mind really. Like you just do what you do.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it is happening. Like then even going into the basketball game, just seeing all the times that Kyle was distracted by a lot of things every time, right? He would keep seeing people, and whether it was his mom and Shep there, but like just how that all affects it because they're kids, and like when it happened to Shep when he was a kid and seeing all that. And so I think just seeing that go through and how all that affected everything going on, I was like, man, that's like so ahead of his time in talking about that, especially in a movie like this, and like how those things are real and they're going on. Because then he's playing basketball against nobody, so he's still a little working through some things. And so I think that was kind of cool how they showed that way.
Absolutely. To you, Savon, like what particular element of this storyline did you kind of like the most? Because like Kevin was saying, this movie was ahead of its time. It was addressing topics that we see today, but are more commonplace and weren't really addressed as much back then.
Yeah, I love that it kind of touched bases on another form of PTSD and going through that emotion, and you don't know how to channel it or just sift through what it really is and why did it affect you as so much and why is it affecting your ability to play the sport that you're really good at, the effect of it all. And I think it really, and that's probably happened so much especially in those times because the crack epidemic, and then I think the 90s were big into like sports and music, and it was going flourishing. But a lot of people who didn't get the opportunity because of their environment or surroundings. It's so realistic. This movie is a realistic film, and I think that's what I like the most about it because it touched base with a form of PTSD. A lot of kids go through on an everyday basis that is just swept under the rug. Oh, you get over it, blah blah blah. But then I love the fact that he finally realized that you gotta instill to the next generation so they understand what they're going through or what needs to happen for you to be successful.
Yeah, definitely. And before we get to the last topic, like looking at what Tupac did in this film, and also just the memorable performance he's had in the past, because like obviously like he wasn't just a rapper, was also able to do this. Like to you, Kevin, like looking back at what he did in his career and legacy, and also just in the movie aspect, what stands out to you about what he was able to do, kind of like switching roles from artist to actor?
Yeah, I mean, some of it makes sense. I mean, his background, he was, he went to a theater school. I mean, that's why he has that history with Jada Pinkett and everything. I mean, he did that. And I mean, he was naturally a very charismatic person, as everyone always would say and know. I think I do think it is underrated how good of a skill that is, though. Because there's a lot of like charismatic athletes, for example, and 99% of the time an athlete is in a movie or a TV show, it is the worst scene in whatever you're watching, right? Like it's usually very bad. Yeah. So for someone to just be okay is honestly a pretty big accomplishment, but to be actually like good, what a crazy run that Tupac was doing at that time. That could you imagine during peak Kendrick or Drake, they're also in some massive movies as like a main character, like. Kendrick just he played a crackhead in Power, and that's about it. Like, like and Drake's done a little bit more. He's an actor, so he can do a little bit more. But like, I think, I mean, obviously incredibly talented, incredibly skilled. Because his character could have looked a little too whatever, or a caricature or whatever, but he was just a very good villain. Like he was just a very good villain that way.
So well. Yeah, absolutely. To you, Savon, what were your thoughts on that, and how he was able to switch just different aspects of what he could put out in terms of his roles and just like as an artist and an actor?
Yo, man, just look at just to bounce off what Kevin said, man. Just think about Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube and Ice-T, these rappers who went on to have luxurious careers in film and acting. Freaking whoever thought Ice Cube would blow up the way he did. Snoop Dogg is playing and he's doing everything under the sun. Ice-T was in a big time with SVU or whatever, big time show. But just imagine the roles that Tupac would have played if he was still alive. Like, I think he would be one of the top actors, because you look at his career, like, he played villains. I think he would be able to play certain other roles, because that like Ice Cube was tough, like a tough rapper in the beginning, and then you do Are We There Yet? And then Snoop Dogg the same way. Like, I think he played those bad villains because that's the persona he played while he was when he was rapping, because he wasn't a tough guy at all. But that's the persona he was playing as a rapper, so they're gonna obviously put him in roles.
And on the front.
Exactly. So I feel like if he was later in his career, like, in his late 30s or 40s, what kind of roles would he have played? And I think he would have been able to do the family role, or, just stretch out his legs a little bit. But man, I mean, what we've seen of his acting career, man, I think the sky was the limit for him. Not in just music. I wasn't a big fan of his music, but just his acting ability was crazy. Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't a big fan.
Wow, not a big fan of Tupac, bro. Not his music. I mean, I thought he was. He rapped passionately.
He wasn't an elite.
He wasn't elite. He didn't have bars.
He didn't have bars like that.
No, like if he didn't have a whole conglomerate behind him, you know what I'm saying? Like if he didn't have Death Row, I don't think he would be just like an ordinary rapper that fizzled out, in my opinion. Because he didn't have no bars.
Man.
He did not, bro. He was lyrical. I mean, he could tell stories, obviously. And I think that's why people, he's a storyteller.
Storytelling, song structure.
No, bars. Like he didn't have bars.
I hang with Nas and Biggie.
He was not. Exactly. Biggie had bars. No, we ain't gonna get to this.
We're not going. That's a different.
If I was an age, I would have went with Biggie. If I was from Florida or not, I would have went with Biggie for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, but that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I can't do that one.
Yeah, I can't do that one.
But now kind of getting into our last topic, 10 years from now, like, do you still think it'll be watchable and intriguing? Obviously, it's been able to pass that bar in so many ways, but like for another decade, I mean, like this movie has so many strong elements of teaching about life lessons of, if you don't make it, how to still have a perspective and strengthen what you're doing, even when you're not where you want to be. Like, to you, Kevin, like how do you think this movie will age for even newer viewers that are just seeing it the first time?
Oh, I mean, great. Like it's still. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the issues are still the same. I mean, they might look a little different, but a lot of them are still the same. It's still, again, it has enjoyable basketball to watch. Like, it's still better than a lot of sports movies. So when you watch it, it just feels natural and good. And I think it does age well also because, we gave him, 2.5, 2.85, but again, like that's a great rewatchable kind of zone of a rating,
Oh yeah.
Like sure. It hits that, like it's not too complex and, there's overlaying narratives of justice and inner turmoil and, all that stuff that's good. But sometimes you're like, I just want to watch the movie. But
I just want to watch a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, because people still wear the jersey. Like Russell Westbrook still came out that one time, still had the jersey, and it's still selling everywhere. People still put it on, and they still make versions of that on 2K every year. Every other storyline is kind of similar in some way, not as crazy. They don't have a dude, pulling the razor blade out the side of his lip, but they have the local school, the guy who's a little seedy. The team first coach, the same kind of like exact plots are in a lot of these things. And so I think it'll keep going for a while.
How good is this soundtrack to you compared to other sports movies? Because this soundtrack was phenomenal, man.
Oh, I love it.
This soundtrack is up there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because of Tupac.
What made it great too.
Holler if you hear me. Oh man. And that was before Death Row. And oh man. I know oh yeah.
It's too good, yeah.
Too good.
To you, Savon, to close it out, like how good, like how much do you think this movie can, how well do you think it can age, like even for other viewers, like we're saying, that this movie can still relate to things that are happening today, commonplace, but it seemed kind of taboo and different back in that era.
No, I mean history repeats itself. So everything that's going on in this movie, it's still happening in the Bronx. It's still happening in New York, slums of Cali, Florida, whatever. Doesn't matter what area code. It's still happening to this day. So it's still going to resonate with the audience. And then if you are a Tupac fan of his music, I guess you're going to like this movie or whatnot. But no, I think it has some great actors in it. You just think like, oh, because I think TikTok has bring a lot of movies and songs back to life.
Yeah.
So you see snippets here and there, especially when they lose, like, yeah, man, give me the gun. And when Birdie I forgot him the gun and he shot Buddy. So that scene always pops up here and now again. So it's always going to resonate because it's still happening to this day. But we know more about that form of PTSD. You don't have to be in war. I mean, technically it is war, especially in those parts.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on, and thank you so much for just being gracious with your time, man.
For sure. Love being out here.
Definitely. Well, that wraps it up for tonight. I'm host Wayans, let my counterpart say about Morris. This has been Full Scope.